quiet. Should we not use this platform as a stage to tell the world, tell even Sadc that we do not want this man, we do not recognize this man as the president of Zimbabwe. So why is Sadc recognizing him as a chairperson of Sadc? Let's hear what you say, what you think. I'm seeing here Champion Mildred, I'm seeing there's someone, Tapiwa, has been admitted as a speaker. Truth is now a speaker. So maybe we can hear from them. But DJ Prof, are you ready to just give us a short break?
Yes, I'm ready. I just want to check with you if you are audible, if you can hear the sound of my voice from that side.
Yes, we can. Sorry, Chief, I was just going to come in for a minute just to say good evening to everyone, and thank you so much for joining. And just as a reminder, as we continue with this conversation, is to think about the countries who are in the Sadc, and perhaps to cast our eye on whether these countries are democratic in themselves or whether they are dictatorial, because I think it gives us some sort of understanding about how Sadc operates. That's one. That's two. It's a rotational role, so every year they rotate. So I don't think that it is because they wanted Mnangagwa, and that's another point we should touch on maybe later on, Chief. But before Professor comes on with the music, so there are 16 member states in the Sadc. That's Angola, Botswana, Comoros, Democratic Republic of Congo, Eswatini. We know what's going on in Eswatini. Lesotho, Madagascar, Malawi, Mauritius, Mozambique, Namibia, Seychelles, South Africa, United Republic of Tanzania, Zambia, and our very own lovely Zimbabwe. So we can come back to this discussion around, who's democratic, who's not, and their views on Zimbabwe, if any at all. So over to you, Professor.
Thank you so much, Champion. Welcome to everyone. Welcome to the speakers. We have been already, invited to be speakers. Welcome to the listeners. My name is Professor DJ Prof, one of the Change Radio presenters and newsreader. Today, we are in that topic, and we are going to discuss that topic. But what I can just say to you this morning is this. The discussion topic is there today, and you tell us what you think and what is where we are as Zimbabweans, and as Zimbabwe as a nation. Join me. Zimbabwe. Ngapa mari zvimwe zvaneti kunga kuti zvakamira sei musarega zvinokukumbira maika ndizvichida kunzwa pfungwa dzevanhu vakasiyana siyana kuti zvakamira sei muri kufunga sei nezviri kuitika munyika medu handitika ukuru
Okay, thank you, DJ Prof. We appreciate the work that you do in the struggle. One of our youth based in South Africa. Thank you for that song. I was just talking to Dr. Nkululeko. He's now changing from Econet to Net One because Econet is not connecting. But the good news is he will be connecting soon, and we'll hand over to him. Champion Mute, we have Tapiwa, we have Shona, we have CJ, about 3 speakers that you can call upon.
Thank you, Chief Konam Chitara Idindanzwa, passion nekushatirwa in your voice. So, I'm sure that's the sentiment that, most of us are feeling. Let's engage, let's talk about it, and let's talk about what we can do about it as, as citizens, as a nation, as a country, It's worrying and it's sad because there was a petition back in September. The opposition party put in a petition to block Mr. Mnangagwa from championship and actually asking him to step down because he's currently deputy chair due to the illegitimacy of our elections. So, and nothing was done about that. But I think we need to say something about it. We need to use social media platforms. We need to use our voices. We need to talk about this and not be quiet. So I think Tapewa was first. Tapewa, do you want to grab the mic? Let's hear from you.
Is anyone speaking?
Yes.
Yeah, Tapo is speaking.
We can hear him. Yeah.
All right, I don't hear him.
presidency, he would be the one being Sadc chair today. But evidently, he didn't win. And even Sadc has recognized that. Now, you guys talk about petitions, there are tribunal courts and stuff that can actually help process if you guys actually have disputes on certain things. But you want to rely on articles and narratives and with nothing to hold on to. You know what I mean? Even those who want to support the cause that you guys want to push and the emotions that you guys have, it's a very difficult thing, even from a Sadc point of view. The way people want to jump process and procedure when it's required, it's amazing for me when we talk about it. Now, Sadc is not like a sole decision. It's not run by ZANU-PF or has a bias towards ZANU-PF the way people want to push that. You know what I mean? It's not that. They're independent thinkers, independent. Civil war, and the Sadc would still deal with the last man standing because life still moves on. You guys can hold on to election results and stuff. Life moves on. Talking about what people are doing with the boulevard and the 8 lanes and stuff, the capital of Harare has moved. That's why the parliament has moved. So the entire operations of the city are moving. That's why those 8 lanes are being built, because a lot of activities coming up there. Parliament and a few things are just the first thing. So you cannot plan ahead and do a 1 lane while you know that the capital operations of the government has moved. Look at any other state. If it's Washington DC, they designed the city in a certain way. So to then throw things out and to also act as if Zimbabwe does not contribute financially to the standing of Sadc and finances and stuff and the returns of those things, it baffles me. We're participants in certain things, we contribute, and we deserve to do certain things in certain ways. So we're going to gain from hosting this, and then we're going to have infrastructure after this. I don't know how that's a loss. I don't know why that makes people angry. I can understand people are not happy with certain developments in certain areas, which can be pushed for in many different ways. And those conversations don't have to be always compared, because you can't compare things that are not.
It was Bashona speaking. And I think if I can just come in for a second, I did mention when I spoke that.
Sorry, I was not speaking. My mic was muted.
Okay, so who was speaking?
It
was Bashona speaking. And I think if I can just come in for a second, I did mention when I spoke.
Sorry, I was not speaking. My mic was muted.
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, so who was?
It was the point. One was giving his submission.
Can you guys hear me?
Okay, because they were.
Ask the number of questions.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
We had you, I think.
Almost finished making.
How do we finish? I don't know. Okay.
Ask the number of questions that need to be.
I haven't finished. I just continue a bit more.
There are no rules. But you have already done more than 3 minutes.
Oh, I didn't know there was a time. We will set the rules and tell us ahead of time, guys. We don't do this by guesswork, eh? I had no idea it was 3 minutes. My bad.
Who said we are not giving you? There are no rules. If you didn't rules.
Chief, if I can come in.
Yeah, but I had a few more seconds, my guy. I never said forever. Wow. Just because I'm not saying something people enjoy, it's one of those cut-offs. We did it.
Who said we are not enjoying?
Chief, if I may come in. Chief?
Yeah, go ahead, Dr.
Sure, thank you. And thank you, Tapiwa, for those contributions. I think that, we are here to hear all those views. We are not here to say, one way or the other. As a radio station, I'm sure that's one of the work that Change Radio does. We get views from everyone, especially Zimbabwean. Some of you, I'm one of the guest speakers here, but like I mentioned, my biggest qualification is being a Zimbabwean citizen. I have my opinions. I have also the reality of what's on the ground, which is what Tapiwa was talking about. Yes, it is true.
there's a rotational aspect to chairmanship of Sadc. Yes, whoever is the president at that time will be hosting everyone. I think the main thing we're talking about is this the picture we want to see, and is the priorities, are they correct? Should we be doing things the way the ED administration is doing? Yes, a lot of us may be very frustrated. The reality of it is that as a member of Sadc, we have certain responsibilities like Tapiwa was talking about, where we host conferences, we contribute to Sadc as a member, and each member state takes care of its own issues, but we also have regional standards, which is where, the Sadc report on elections and stuff that was done by Dr. Mumba is a topical issue. So these are issues that we need to talk about as Zimbabweans, and it's not about you versus us, it's about all of us as citizens. We need to start talking like that. We need to be looking at what is the bigger picture. So Chief, I can do a short presentation here, or I was waiting for Dr. Sibanda, and he will show up at some point.
Most. And also I think it's talking about, also from my point of view anyway, this is, me as a citizen speaking, I think it's about looking at the competency of performing that role. So when you look at the Sadc chairmanship role and what that role entails, the role of a chairman, according to Sadc themselves, is to oversee the highest level of governance structure within Sadc and among other Sadc states, and overall mandate of providing policy, direction, control of functions, and charity starts at home. If our government has failed to do that at home, how can they then be able to do that for Sadc and other Sadc nations? So, this is the question, is, fix your own home first before you want to fix other people's homes. That is my point, that is my view. Others may want to question that, want to challenge that, want to bring their own submissions, but I think that is where we're coming from, especially when there is a question, even though it's gone through the courts and it's been talked about, there's a question of an illegitimacy of election. This is where people are coming from, and this is why people are frustrated and angry, because our nation is collapsing, our health system is collapsing, our education system is collapsing. We don't have a stable currency. So how do you chair and manage 16 Sadc nations when you have failed to stabilize your own nation? I think this is where people are coming from. Champion Patricia, I think you wanted to come in as well. Over to you.
Okay, maybe while Patricia is preparing to come on, I just want to respond very quickly to Tapiwa, and then if Champion Patricia, if you can see Dr. Nkululeko is here, he is at the end of Citizen NK. Citizen Nkululeko, if you can see him, please give him the mic so that as soon as he comes on, even if I'm speaking or anyone is speaking, we'll ask him to come on before his network comes in the way. Tapiwa, you are saying we are angry about Emmerson Mnangagwa becoming chairperson. Of course, we are angry. we are even more angry about his illegitimacy. You speak like someone who knows what he's doing. You know about the guidelines, the Sadc guidelines to free and fair elections, to which Zimbabwe is a signatory. And Sadc, through Dr. Mumba, said that the election in Zimbabwe did not meet those guidelines. And therefore, those elections were declared null and void. They were deemed to not be free and fair. And therefore, us as Zimbabweans, we do not recognize Emmerson Mnangagwa as the legitimate president of Zimbabwe. Therefore, he should not even be the chairperson for Sadc. And indeed, it is our right to think like that, because we know what happened during the elections. Even now, if I ask you, Tapiwa, what votes did Emmerson Mnangagwa garner in Mashonaland East, in Mashonaland West, or anywhere in Zimbabwe, you can't even tell us. Even Zek cannot even tell us how many votes did Mnangagwa get in Matabele. So yes, we are still angry about that.
No, I can pull out the election results. Don't answer for me. I can pull out the election results. Don't say even now you ask me, because you're not asking.
No, we're going to mute you because you're being disrespectful.
No, you guys want me to you're responding to what I said.
No. That's not what we do. You don't speak when I'm speaking, because we allowed you to speak. So you have to give others a chance to speak. You asked questions. We are now responding to those questions. So it is what it is. We are allowed to do what we are doing, to feel the way we are feeling. We feel betrayed, and we know for a fact that Emmerson Mnangagwa is an illegitimate president. But anyway, Mildred, over to you. Dr. Nku is on the platform. Maybe you want to give him a chance to maybe do his first presentation or speaker, and then maybe people can answer questions, and then he can come back for the second segment.
I think he's dropped off because he was here. I saw him as a speaker. Maybe Mildred, you can see him, but I can't see him anymore. But there he is. I'm going to bring him back on as a speaker. So hopefully he should be able to speak in the next minute or so, if he accepts.
He's still a speaker on my side.
Oh, okay. So he can go. He can speak then. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Over to you, Chief, to introduce him.
I don't think he is. Dr. Nku, can you hear me?
Oh, he is.
Oh, I can hear you, yes.
Oh, okay, fine, okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Nkululeko, a man who doesn't need much introduction. We all know who he is, a former spokesperson of President Chamisa, an activist from his days in college, and even now he is still very much in the thick of things, an activist, a person who speaks his mind. Dr. Nkululeko, thank you so much for joining us. We can give you maybe the next 10 minutes to just address the topic that we have today. Idi Mnangagwa, incoming Sadc chairperson. I don't know how you feel about that. Maybe we'll get to hear that in your presentation. What should the people of Zimbabwe do? Do we keep quiet, like what someone here is trying to tell us to do? Is there any pathway? Is there anything that we can do? So, Dr. Nku, the next 10 minutes is yours. You have more 10 minutes that are going to come. You're going to speak now for 10 minutes, and then we'll allow people to ask questions and come in with comments, and then we'll give you another 10 minutes, and then the last 10 minutes as you do your concluding remarks. So over to you, Doc.
Mamos, thank you. No one could have done a better introduction than you have done, but I certainly think that you've just been extremely kind in that introduction. And thank you to everybody who's here and everybody who continues to care about the only country that we have and continues to hope that we can make the best out of it. And as you said, Chief Soswe, I have been in this game for, together with many others, for a little while. And one of the things I want to highlight right from the top is the fact that, there is nothing enjoyable and there's nothing nice about being in this space where we are constantly attempting to remind those that run our country and our society that our country can do better, that our people deserve better, that we have in this country some of the best brains that God graced this little planet, this little dot in the cosmos with. And that these people that we call Zimbabweans have been able to prove beyond any doubt that if they are given the appropriate environment, they would be able and they are capable of making wonders, that they could change the world, that they've got what it takes. And that I also continue to have a lot of faith in Zimbabweans and their capacity, and that their capacity has always been held back by the environment within which they have to operate. Just this week, and that is just to buttress the point that I'm making, that I wanted to set out with, is the news that we had this week, which is that in Africa, south of the Sahara, the largest number of immigrants into foreign countries, even within Sadc itself, is that of Zimbabweans. And that when they venture into these countries, they make some of the greatest contributions. A lot of you will have heard of Johannesburg, a great gold-built city in South Africa. And I know no less than 3 managers of different departments within that city that are immigrants into South Africa from Zimbabwe. I also know that these Zimbabweans would have wanted to contribute as much as they do now in those foreign countries in their own country. That it would be the greatest news ever that Mr. Mnangagwa would be asked to preside over the affairs of the region, the affairs of Sadc, and that if he did contribute just a percentage of what Zimbabwean citizens are contributing to Sadc, then our region would be a better place for us as a people. And that's certainly our hope, that he would pick a leaf from the manager of the Department of Engineering in Gauteng, who is a Zimbabwean, and do that job as well as that gentleman is doing. That we would be able to have Mr. Mnangagwa shine as a beacon as he gets this rare opportunity to lead what, in my view, is a region of great people, the Sadc region. Here, however, is the reality. So that is the dream. That is what I wanted to set out. That Zimbabweans are great people. That Zimbabweans are highly capable. That Zimbabwe is highly blessed. That Zimbabwe can do it. That anybody from Zimbabwe could make the greatest contribution in the region. That certainly Mr. Mnangagwa could make that contribution. But what we are faced with is that Mr. Mnangagwa has had and has an opportunity to make a contribution to the region by following the old adage that says that, charity is a good thing. But you're never going to learn charity when you visit a neighbor. It is good when you start it at home. Now, if you put side by side hard facts, and I'm a student of political science, and I'm not a politician as most people would think, and I work with hard, uncomfortable, sometimes very confusing, and sometimes certainly unconvincing and highly uncharismatic ways to deal with politics, which is that you have to deal with figures, with numbers. And the numbers I have today for everybody to deal with, to grasp, is that Zimbabwe has the highest number of immigrants within the Sadc region that Mr. Mnangagwa has to lead for the next year as the chairperson. Zimbabwe has the highest number of immigrants into other countries. Over 3.5 million Zimbabweans in South Africa alone, and Zimbabweans are in Namibia, in Zambia, in Botswana, in Mozambique, and Malawi. And Zimbabweans are sent by circumstances at home to far-off lands beyond the Sadc. And I can tell you that most of these people would want to be nowhere else but in Zimbabwe. And the question you have to ask yourself is that suddenly, if you were to give Mr. Mnangagwa the responsibility that he is given, which is to run Sadc politically, economically, and socially, why would you expect that if he had total control of the region, you wouldn't end up with a very large number of Sadc citizens flying out of their own countries into other countries on the African continent and beyond? That is the simplest question that we've got to ask ourselves. And that is the biggest worry that we've got to have, which is that if you're dealing with statistics, Mr. Mnangagwa has the largest number of people leaving the country that he leads. Why should we even think that his leadership of the region is or could be positive? And I think that when we ask those questions, we aren't asking those questions because we are anti-Mnangagwa or anti-Zimbabwean. We're just working with the numbers. And we're saying that that's a crisis. Now, if we admit that that's a crisis, that the example that Mr. Mnangagwa brings from Zimbabwe is not great, and then we give him the benefit of the doubt and say perhaps he was dealt, bad cards by his predecessor. So he has had very little to do with the circumstances in his own country. There are two questions you've got to ask. If it's had very little to do with what's happening in his own country with the citizens of this beautiful country living it in droves, you ask yourself then that why is he not reversing the trend of Zimbabweans leaving the country that he leads? And if you can answer that question for me, then perhaps you need to give me numbers that suggest that the statistics show that there's a reverse trend of Zimbabweans coming back into the country, or at least fewer Zimbabweans leaving the country than there were when Mr. Mugabe was president of the nation. Now, therefore, in my view, Sadc has got to be, if Sadc was anything like some of the countries and some of the leaders that are worried about the progress of their own people and their own societies, then I think that they would be worried about the capacity of a president whose own citizens are running away from his own country. And this is not personal, this is just numbers. Now, then the second thing I've got to raise with the leadership of Sadc by Mr. Mnangagwa is whether or not it would be reasonable to expect that Sadc is going to enjoy more freedoms going forward, all under his leadership, given what's happening in the country now, for those that haven't been allowed to pay attention to the issues because of circumstances, economics, and being too busy. What's happening now is that your members of parliament across the country have been speaking to citizens about a private voluntary organization bill, which suggests that the government must have total control, or at least sizable control, of all private organizations in the country. And if that were the case, let us say that the government has a legitimate reason, the government of Mr. Mnangagwa has a legitimate reason to control everything in society. What does that say about Mr. Mnangagwa's faith and the concept of success based on the multiplicity of ideas? And then this goes back to the politics that we have, that has seen President Chamisa dare Mr. Mnangagwa to claim that he runs the democracy in the country by saying, look, if you continue to interfere with our internal politics within our organizations and our institutions, then we will expose you as attempting to run a one-party state. Well, and a lot of people, forgot and were willing to blame President Chamisa for taking the stance he took. It is clear for all to see today that under Mr. Mnangagwa, we're eventually going to have a society that's run by one individual from the center. Nowhere on earth have you heard a government that's run almost entirely by members of the same family. And the Zimbabwean cabinet is an indication of that. So, given that, it is clear to anybody that cares to look at the numbers. If you want the names, we'll give you the names, or at least the people that are suspected to be members of Mr. Mnangagwa's family. And Mr. Mnangagwa has not disputed these allegations. And if you have not had them, the many allegations that Mr. Mnangagwa has no less than 5 individuals who are very closely related to him that are in his government. And the recent appointment to the ZBC is another question that Mr. Mnangagwa has not responded to. That seems to be rife with all the telltale signs of not just nepotism, but also non-meritocratic appointments into senior government positions. The fact that Mr. Mnangagwa still runs a single station in the country, a television station in the country, is also another indication that we have a system in this country that is far behind systems that exist all across the Sadc region. Now, if you're given that, and you come to me and say, Dr Nkululeko, you're just a hater. You hate Mr. Mnangagwa because you're not a member of ZANU-PF, and you're saying these things because you were anti-Zimbabwe. All I leave you with today is this. It is that it is much easier for me to love my country and to work for my country as I continue to do, without anyone doubting that I love my country, than it would ever be to defend the position of hating my country when it is doing well. And if I am the problem, and if our ideas about, and if our perceptions of Mr. Mnangagwa are incorrect, then please explain to me why the largest number of people are voting with their feet, getting out of the country, and numbers don't lie. And then explain to me why Mr. Mnangagwa runs an economy that would push people out. And I know that democracy would eventually, and multiplicity of ideas can bring about progress and can build economies a lot better than overly centralized systems of governance. And I also know that a government, even a business, one of the primary ideas that you would get from a successful business consultant when you want to start a private company is this. And I'll give you some of the three of the top 10 pieces of advice that you'd get from anybody who wants you to run a successful business when you're planning to do so. The first thing is this: don't employ your relatives in your business. If you do, you will fail. Second piece of advice: don't employ your friends. If you do, you will fail. Thirdly, please do not employ people that want to be your friends. Not just your friends. People that want to be, don't employ them. They're not going to take you anywhere. Don't employ people that agree with you. It won't take you anywhere. And Mr. Mnangagwa has done all these things. And we know that he's also done exactly that with the Pan-African Parliament. And that is why you've seen that parliament resisting some, if not all, of his government's maneuvers. So there's some rejection of Mr. Mnangagwa at the African level. And one has to answer why that is the case. If you think I hate Mr. Mnangagwa, please single me out as one of them. But if you think I hate my country, you got to get yourself checked out, because this is the only country that all people who admit that they're Zimbabweans know as home and will always take as the only home they'll ever know. So let us debate these things without necessarily being disagreeable. Let us agree that first and foremost, we're all just Zimbabweans and we love our country. And that secondly, there are indicators, there are things that we could look at that show us if our country is run appropriately. And that it would be very patriotic to warn Sadc that the gentleman they're about to have as the chairperson has particular limitations, and that there are particular indicators of performance on his part based on his own experience in a position of great responsibility, such as that of being the president of a great republic, the republic that we call home, and that the only home we'll ever have, Zimbabwe. So, if anybody has access to this gentleman as he runs Sadc, you can run it down as a private enterprise, as a family enterprise, to run it down such that all the citizens of this great region will find themselves with no choice but escape to other people's countries. There's nothing more painful than living in a country that is not your own. Because no matter what, how much they destroy your home, your heart stays at home. And you always want to go back to the place that reminds you of the days when you were low, when you were being formed, when you're being created, when you're becoming a person. And for me, it's deeper than that. Every dream I have is a dream of the streets I walked as a kid, where I first felt the sensations of fear, where I first thought I was falling in love, where I thought I would go when I needed family, the places that made me who I am, the only person I can ever be. And these places are in Zimbabwe, a Zimbabwe that's run by Mr. Mnangagwa, a Zimbabwe that I have had to leave, a Zimbabwe I've had to come back to because I haven't got anywhere else to go. A Zimbabwe I'm trying to leave in. And let no one insult me today and say that this is not my country or that I don't love this country. I do, always will. It's the place where my tears first fell. And then there's nothing deeper, and there's no better meaning in life than that. And I don't want anything else. I just want this country to be better. And Mr. Mnangagwa must make sure that it becomes better. And that is runs Sadc, he doesn't try to change Sadc to a state that Zimbabwe finds itself in today. So these are deep things that you don't want to hear. I don't want to insult anybody today. I never do. But I want us to be real about, our humanness and the fact that whether we like Mnangagwa or not, we all cry. We all fear. We all desire. We all aspire. We all want to get somewhere. We all get born. We grow stronger. And then as the years go by, we become weaker. And then eventually, we all will die. And that by the day we die, we'd like to leave a better country, not just for ourselves and our families, but for everybody we've ever seen in our country. And that our country must become better today than it was when we were all born. And we must leave a better country to our children and their children, because we owe that to them. Let's stop the selfishness of wanting to make ends meet for just ourselves. And that if they do for ourselves, then we should say the country is run for everybody. Let us encourage Mr. Mnangagwa to run Sadc for everybody, as we should encourage him to run Zimbabwe for everyone. As President Chamisa always said, he was always going to be a president for everybody, and he always will be. I thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nku. Very, very powerful, moving, informed, and informative submission there. I really was drawn into what you were saying, and what touched me the most is you echoing, I think, what Dr. Ranga has already said, which is that, first and foremost, you are Zimbabwean. We are all Zimbabweans, and we love our country, and we all want the best for our country. And thinking about what you're saying, when you think about the millions of migrants who are scattered around the world, if you think about the skill, the knowledge, the talent that those people have, and they're giving it to other countries, other nations, it's sad. It's a sad situation. And I think everybody who lives you know, in the diaspora, there's nothing more than just wanting to be at home. So thank you so much for those submissions. Please don't go away. We want to hear from you again. But we've got a few people who have requested the mic, and I don't know whether they've got questions for you, Dr. Nku. But Bashona, you were one of the people that requested the mic. Please unmute yourself. Let's hear from you.
Yeah. Mildred, if you can just give timeline so that we don't have people speaking forever. Questions, comments pertaining to what Dr. Nkululeko has presented. That's what we want. So let's keep it.
Yeah, no more than a minute and a half, please, so that we can get everybody speaking. And yeah, if you're directing questions to Dr. Nku, you know, please be brief. Also, please be respectful. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. And thank you, host and the co-host. Maybe I'll just try to be quick because the guest has said so many things that probably maybe we might need more clarification, but because of time, allow me to dive in straight. Dr. Nku, you mentioned deeply about the issue of immigration and immigrants within Sadc region. And according to the statistics that I have here, because I was listening to you very attentively, it looks like your figure that you gave us of 3.5 million Zimbabweans living in Sadc countries or in other countries within the region is not tallying and is not factual. Maybe we are reading from wrong statistics bureau altogether, because what I have right now is totally different on what you have said. Zimbabweans alone who are living in South Africa today, the number is less than 700,000, and which is the constituents which has got larger Zimbabweans living in Southern Africa. I don't know where the 3.5 million that you're referring to. You mentioned very, very deeply, Dr. Nku, about your love to your country, which is Zimbabwe. I believe so. But there's something that has to have a question to you, my dear brother. We have got visitors that comes to our country. Like, for example, we have the issue of Steve Harvey, which you mentioned to say, Steve, I've removed the post that you posted about Victoria, the beauty of Victoria Falls, of which Victoria Falls employs and houses so many people probably voted for opposition on the past election, and some of them, they never voted for any political party. Probably they don't like any political party, but probably it was the issue of being politicking and hate of the current administration. But I'll end by saying, co-host and host and the co-host, is that Sadc, like what you've said, is a rotational opposition. Whether we like it or not, the current president is going to chair. And it's our opportunity as Zimbabweans to shine as a country. Whether we are going to say is someone who is there whom we don't like, it's a story for another day. But for now, the developments which are happening in the country are there for us to shine and present the other picture that people have been labeling us, and create environment that probably the investors and the visitors, that some of them were chased away by my brother, Dr. Nku, would then come and revisit Zimbabwe. With that, and because of time, I end my submission. But I hope my brother will clarify on the issue of immigration, and also to encourage more people with big names to visit Zimbabwe, so that.
Thank you, Bashona. Dr. Nku, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Bashona, I know you're going back to 2019, but before I say that, you know, I'm so grateful that you're a Zimbabwean. I'm so grateful for your clarity on issues, and I have no doubt that you love this country. I have no doubt that you love Victoria Falls. You raised that. I have never overstated my capacity, and I do not think that Steve Harvey deleted his post about Victoria Falls solely because of my contribution. I think that he will have done a lot of a bit of background, research to understand what I had said to him. But for so that we don't confuse people, and I think that, and I don't think that you're attempting to confuse people. I think that's the impression that was made, which is that I attacked him and told him not to advertise Victoria Falls. It's not true, and I will recite to Steve Harvey's tweet in 2019, which is that I said very clearly that and I think I was on Zimbabwe's side here, and that Steve Harvey was on the wrong side. Steve Harvey said that he invited people to come to the Zimbabwe side of the Victoria Falls. And I said that, you know what, I like that, it's a great thing. But I simply added these facts that were very true as of 2019. I say that if you're going to take a journey to Victoria Falls, you have to understand that you're going to go on a 500-kilometer journey without a chance to get fuel, because there was no fuel in the country. And that if you can, when you're going to the Victoria Falls, you're coming from Bulawayo, which is where some people would come from, or if you've landed at the Victoria Falls at the airport, you need to be careful that you have enough fuel. Why did I say that? I didn't want foreigners stranded in our country, because that is not good PR for our country. That is not good PR for Zimbabwe. I said carry at least 40 liters of fuel as you sojourn across Zimbabwe or in Victoria Falls. And I don't see anything particularly sinister about that. I still stand by that submission, given the conditions of 2019 and the fuel situation in the country. And I also said that if you're a foreigner, do not take part in any political activity, including the political activities that would have me active, because as a foreigner, you would be faced with the harsher consequences for doing that. And I still stand by that. And that is true in any country. It's true in America. If you're a foreigner, stay as far as you can from politics. And I was advising people to do so because I am a teacher of politics. And I also said to Steve Harvey, what you also forgot to say is that you may have situations where you can't find things that you need, and therefore make sure you've got enough supplies and that you've got enough cash, because as of 2019, cash was a problem. And I was advising foreigners to take care, to make sure that they would not get stranded in our country, and we end up with a foreign embassy running around looking for its citizens because they've gotten stranded somewhere, and that would be a bad thing for our country. Now, do I still stand by that? Yes. Is that patriotic? Yes, I think it is. If anybody thinks it's not patriotic, I think it's because they just hate who said so. And if you don't think you hate who said so, well, you still really need to explain to me why it is wrong to advise foreigners to have enough supplies of certain products that are not available or in short supply in the country. You don't want to go on a holiday. You have 2 weeks of holiday, and then you were stuck in a queue somewhere trying to get fuel for 3-4 days. That's not good. I wanted foreigners to come here, enjoy the Victoria Falls, go back home with the idea that they could tell somebody else to visit the next time, but also just tell them that because of some situations, you're going to bring a few supplies with yourself. And you can enjoy the Victoria Falls. And a lot of tourism in Zimbabwe, if you're well prepared. And I leave you with this thing, Bashona. It's a very simple principle that has helped me a lot since 2021. It goes this way. Failing to plan is planning to fail. as only, and I will continue to help people to plan beforehand, because not doing so is planning to fail. If I was in government and I had a situation where fuel and money was in short supply, I would deliberately ensure that there are policies that allow foreigners and our guests to get an advantage, or to be able, because they have limited time in a country, to be able to get to the front of the fuel queue. They get to be able to get to the front of the forex queue, because I know that the more of those that I get into my country, the better it is for everybody else in the long run. That's all I was trying to say. This is a policy matter. I was dealing with the policy issue. I wasn't dealing with it politically. I was dealing with that professionally and technically. And for that reason, I will forgive everybody who chooses to misunderstand what I said, or who cannot understand what I meant. And I say to them, the fact that you misunderstand me should not necessarily mean that I'm your enemy, or that I'm the enemy of the country, that I had the Victoria Falls. I do not. I love it. I go there, I send my mother there. Okay, 6 months ago, I spent hard-earned cash to send my mother there so she could spend a few days there and support the businesses that are there, because those businesses allow foreigners to continue coming in and bring much needed balance of payments for our country. Now, if you're going to tell me that I send my mother to a place that I do not want to send anybody else, I think you're wrong. I understand your passion, but I disagree with the outcome of your passion that seeks to exclude my views simply because I worked for President Chamisa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nku. We have CJ. Is CJ still here? You requested the mic earlier. Is CJ still around? If not, Citizen, you can go ahead. Nku, please stick around. We want to hear from you again.
Can I just? I forgot to respond to that. Can I just say that the latest figures from the United Nations Commission for Refugees is that Zimbabwe has, and that just came out yesterday, given to us by the High Commissioner, or the highest ranking member of the commission in Zimbabwe, the resident representative of the commission in Zimbabwe, who yesterday in Bulawayo indicated that there are about 3.5 million Zimbabweans in South Africa alone, and the fact that Zimbabwe has the largest number of immigrants into other countries within Sadc is what I have taken out of that presentation by the United Nations Commission for Immigrants in that speech I attended in Bulawayo. So I know for a fact that unless somebody has got a different source, and that my source at the moment seems to be the most authoritative, the challenge to that should not just be based on somebody's ability to challenge that, if they have not checked it out, I would encourage Bashona, who I have a lot of respect for, to check the details out as provided by the commission 3 days ago. And then this was a headline story in the Newsday in Zimbabwe today, and no one has questioned those figures. So 3.5 million of documented and undocumented Zimbabwean citizens are thought to or believed to live in South Africa by the most authoritative, possibly authoritative sources on this subject. You must note that these are things that Bashona needs to understand. The world itself as a whole has about 10% of its population living as immigrants. So that's the whole world. When you're looking at 3.5, you're looking at nearly 3 times the proportion of Zimbabweans living in South Africa as a percentage than the number of other people living outside their own countries for good or bad reasons. So it's really a worrying number, and as Zimbabweans, we must be concerned that our people, and that's, Zimbabwe has gold, Zimbabwe has diamonds, Zimbabwe has all these minerals, but Zimbabwe's best resource, and then ask this, tell this to Mr. Mnangagwa, he says it himself, his government says it all the time. One of Zimbabwe's best resources are human resources, our people. Our people. You could take away all the gold, you could take away all the diamonds and leave Zimbabwe with Zimbabweans. This country and its people would still compete on par with many other countries because our people are resilient. Our people are strong. Our people don't give up. Our people read. And our people do not ask for a handout. Do not ask for help. Our people get out and get it. Our people are go-getters. Our people are some of the best in the world, and given good conditions, our people would reach for the stars. Our people would be with Elon Musk trying to get to Mars. Our people are where they are today because our people are not allowed to reach their full potential. And that's all we're crying for. Our people must get what they deserve, given what they give to the world, what they're willing to, how much they're willing to take part, how much they're willing to participate. And I think that our leaders, those leaders must understand that when you're leading Zimbabweans, it's not a pack. It's not just some sheep out there. It's people that can do things. It's people that can achieve. It's people that see challenges and see them as that. It's people that see others do things and they say, you know what, if they can do it, we will do it. If they can achieve it, we'll achieve it. Our country has been run so badly that if it wasn't a country of Zimbabweans, this country would have closed down. It would have closed down many years. It would have gone bankrupt. And if anybody doesn't have faith in our people, then they will have faith in nothing at all. And the fact that our people are living outside the country is deplorable, infuriating, and unfortunate. Let's not run away from it by saying it's not true. Give us counterfacts, give us counter numbers, and move that way. But I'm thinking that, Bashona has just not been updated around these issues. I don't think that Bashona has bad intentions with that erroneous submission.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nku. Thank you for clarifying the figures and the numbers. I think that, that that sheds light a bit more. I will now hand over to Chief for you to just say a few words. Following that, DJ Prof, please get ready for a bit of a music and an interval while people have a bit of a comfort break. And then after DJ Prof, Dr. Netranga, please get ready to come in, and then we will listen to other submissions. So please request the mic. We want to hear from you. We want to engage with you, but obviously in a respectful manner. This is a platform for all citizens, but we need to respect each other. And also when we come here, we need to come with, with facts. So yeah, please, let's engage. Request the mic. Chief, over to you. Chief Joshua, are you there? If not, DJ Prof, do you want to step in?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for the submission, Dr. Nku. It was pregnant with wisdom, and thank you for that. Thank you for the question, Mashona, and people that contribute. Like we always encourage people, grab the mic, contribute, and we want to hear what's your take, what are your thoughts with regards to the topic. But obviously, we. A number of us, like we see, I think Chief had said it earlier on, that we so emotional with the situation that actually happened in Zimbabwe, getting back to the election in 2023, and so we're not happy, not because the country is getting the chairmanship, but the person who is getting the chairmanship. If you cannot chair in your own house, how can you be able to chair outside? I'm just gonna play a song. While this, I think it's Ranga is gonna come in, like you said. I'm going to play a song. This song is also an emotional song, speaking on Zimbabwe, and the young people of Zimbabwe are saying, we've been told, Neanda, Kaguvi, and Chamiluka, and so those people who fought daily in the first Chimurenga for Zimbabweans to be free, and the young people are saying, I think you could have led this country on your own than what you left for us, because we wish, if you hear young people today wish that the country can go back to Stone Age, then know that something is not going on, something is wrong in Zimbabwe. This is the young people playing this song. You can listen.
Ngori ndapungiziro izina tariro nyika yedu zvakutana emangoma tipeta teka ukama ngafunde chitokomukani nehanda zvamakabata pfumo nyika inodai makatokabeka sekuruka gumi nataminuka mambo vana makatisiya mugaika tanyora nemusodzisamba moiverenga mutanza merenyika mukatitera nehanda zvamakabata pfumo imi makatimapira vana tigarike pamakaenda ndizvo zvamakaimisa sina nhasi rukaretu kushaiwa yakauya Zimbabwe nekutambudzika asi nhasi kwakatonyanyisa makati vatione vakatofuratira nekuti zvavo zvese zvikuvaitira tikuta mugwenga musina anokunji kambe chirimo asi mundire munhu mani ii zvimwe zvacho zviri pani kubva kubhaseite ndatengesa madomasi nekurega kuzeidza zvakasiyana pano yava kutenga nyika yetembarari kushaya kana mari inongopfira mukati implemendi yasara munyika dipenda kupedza shungu dzangu ndoda kutaura nehanda zvamakabata pfumo nyika inodai makatokameka sekuruka guvi nataminuka mambo vana makatisiya mugenga tanyora nemusodzisamba moiverenga mutanzomere nyika mukatiterera nehanda zvamakabata pfumo imi zvinofana kana maiverenga kwamuri ikoko kwagumi nehanda kana kunotoponera South Africa yakunge ndiyo kapita chiti yenyika kuti yapedza kwacho otonanga kuchitotsa imi kunge zvenyu veruzhinji vanoda kuzvitaura zisaone kunyarara vanorohwa nehanda vadzvinyiriri vedu vane simba rakawanda vana kana nguva yekutambira zvitemo makatipa vakuru vanodhonga netemo ramangwana redu rapa rangovarima zvizhinji hatidi vanotimanikidza nhamo yedu ndiyo ikuvaretete usati zvipo munhu wese kuda kuita iri kuti mani
samba kuna nehanda
kizachimira
akabhuye kuti nyika yamakatisira yakaikai
pachanyika
takuita kunge tinofamba mugwenga
nehanda zvamakabata pfumo
manangopesa gwazho kuti mbamiri paSouth Africa
nyika ino
South Africa yakuita capital city yeZimbabwe
dai makato
Zimbabwe yakuita province yeSouth Africa
sekuruka guvi nachaminuka mambo vana makatisiya mugwenga ndanyora nemusodisamba moiverenga mutanza merenyika mukaiverera nehanda zvamakabata pfumo ivi chinhu chakuvhurika munyika chazara matechi kwandikavhura akaunti ndinoitei zvavanoita zvasvibisa vechidiki svakai mabasa tindamawana ku tiudzei kana akuwanika kutechi pa20 kilomita dzimarodhiro kutechi zvazvichinjaoneka mberi nekuti tavatavazielection nyange zvikasvika munzeve dzavo hazvinei tagara takasasika kunona tingatei zvavanotiudza hazvina rwendo matakadekare kuti nyara dzanekani zvaimbenge zvakanaka 1980 zvinotipei nyika ichifanisa vira riniko muchititanaka munovimidza zvinopera tisina kutama tabvira kure zvose nemuromo tichindonga tichiredza mutsime hamuna chinokuti tirimukai nyika ndedu tete handie munhu vana veZimbabwe musoro mutai ukatemera mukati munozviwanani nyarairo wedzidarumidza uone panodiwa ruzivo nezvetifiketi wachandasenemo mutengo kana mari namota kopera mudhorombo vazova chibuda mabasa euro izvi kunge zvinhu nehanda zvamakabata pfumo nyika inodai makatotameka sekuruka guvi nachaminuka mambo vana makatisiya mugwenga ndanyora nemusodisamba moiverenga mutanza merenyika mukaiverera nehanda zvamakabata pfumo ivi nehanda zvamakabata pfumo nyika inodai makatotameka sekuruka guvi nachaminuka mambo vana makatisiya mugwenga ndanyora nemusodisamba moiverenga mutanza merenyika mukaiverera nehanda zvamakabata pfumo ivi
leta ine musical format kuna vane handa kakaguri akazoona muyani handa vakaiswa statue pakati peguta chaipo chaipo aihope vari kuzviona kuti chikafu chakawanda munyika asi chakawandira mupureti munhu wani nai vakomana Thank you so much, Lord Mesh. Thank you much for the listeners and people who are speaking on the platform. Change Radio Zimbabwe, ndidika. Mafungireni kuti chipuka zvakaita sei, udze muono yenyu. Topic yatinayo nemamiriro akaita nyika yedu yeZimbabwe, ndidi. Ndinonzi DJ Prof inini. Nakudza kuti basa rangu inofungoti turu. Ndodzokera kuvaridzi vazvo. Mildred.
Thank you, DJ Prof. Always good at doing your thing. Just a reminder, on this platform today, or on the space today, we're obviously talking about Sadc and the impact this will have on Zimbabwe. As we know, Mr. Emerson Mnangagwa will be assuming chairmanship of Sadc, but also we're taking this opportunity to raise money for Change Radio. Change Radio is a non-profit organization, an online radio station, and our vision is to reach masses of people across borders, but in our own country, reach people in the rural areas. So please help us, help the people. We want to increase voter education. We want to be able to reach as many people as we can. Our coffee link is pinned up there, so please do click. You can give as little as $1. Any amount, any dollar really counts. So please help us, as we try and strive to reach the masses, as we strive to deliver across borders and across nations. Thank you. Dr. Ranga, are you there and are you ready to speak to us?
Oh, thank you very much, Sister Mildred. And hello again, everyone. Hello, Dr. Ngu. Sister Patricia, hello. Queen Nandi, Chamisa is something here. Hello to you and hello, everybody who is on this space. Dr. Ngu has made my job very easy, and that's why I was pining for him to come so that I wouldn't have a lot to say. But As a Zimbabwean, I always have something to say. That is my only qualification here on this space today. What I want to talk about is what some people are clamoring for, which is, you guys, why are you always complaining, right? This is a good thing. You should celebrate it. I want to say to everyone here that, against better advice from my doctors and everybody else, Chief Social might attack me any minute. What I'm going to say is that I want ED to be successful as the president of our country. As much as he got there the way he did, each day that he is in that office in State House, he should be working for all of us Zimbabwean citizens. And that is also true when he becomes chairman of Sadc, however he got there. Because when he succeeds, all of us succeed. So in terms of what we want to see, because people are always saying, no, he shouldn't be there. The reality of it is, like my brother Tapiwa mentioned earlier, it's what it is. It's a rotational presidency, and whatever is going to happen, irrespective of who is in office, against the better judgment of Sadc. They should have better ways to manage that. So what should he do? What should the government of the day do? The ED administration, what should they do? That's what I'm going to focus on, and I will make it quick because Dr. Nkululeko has covered most of the things I was going to say here. So what should happen in August? As a member of Sadc, what are we contributing to Sadc? We used to be the breadbasket of Africa. What happened? Today we're talking about millions of people facing starvation, real time. In the last 2 months, we have had people clamoring that the drought should be declared a national disaster because we will have to ask for handouts from the rest of the world when we used to be the breadbasket of Africa. So in August, Mr. Mnangagwa should have a plan for what Zimbabwe is doing to restore that breadbasket status for Sadc and for Africa. Instead of asking for handouts, we should be saying, as Zimbabwe, this is how we're going to fix our agricultural system so that we can feed our people, feed Sadc, feed Africa. So do we have a plan? Because Zimbabwe, we have what we call a comparative advantage in business, which means there are certain things that by virtue of us, our climate, the rain season, the rain system, our soils, we are positioned to feed Africa the same way Ukraine is feeding the world. We should be doing the same, and we should not be counting on excuses. When they had command agriculture, I thought, oh my God, when you involve the military, they get things done. They are there to get things done. But guess what? We spent more than $3 billion US 5 years ago. I don't know when that was. And yet here we are. Our people are facing starvation. So that's one thing that, as a government, Mr. Mnangagwa, as the one who assumed the chairmanship of Sadc, that's one of the things that Sadc expects Zimbabwe to contribute as a member of this club called Sadc. So what is the solution for that? What are we going to do about that? Number two, what is Mr. Mnangagwa doing about creating business conditions in our country that will make other Sadc citizens want to come to Zimbabwe to do business and to come and just enjoy and not have to worry about all the road accidents that we hear about, the problems with fuel, like Dr. Ngu was mentioning. So that's the other thing. What are we doing to create an environment so that when these Sadc countries come to Zimbabwe, these Sadc leaders come to Zimbabwe in August, they will go back home saying, oh man, if you haven't started a business and you're planning to do so, go to Zimbabwe, right? We said Zimbabwe is open for business. That's the mantra that Mr. Mnangagwa has been championing all over the world. So tell the Sadc leadership, tell them, listen, this is what Zimbabwe is doing to attract your business, because it's competition. When we compete, as countries, as neighbors. It makes us all better. So we want companies to come from South Africa, from Mozambique to say, let me go to Zimbabwe and do business there because the ease of doing business there is best in Zimbabwe. That's how we're going to create jobs for the many young people with college degrees today. We know unemployment is more than 80%, and that's a tragedy. So when we host this Sadc summit in August, does Mr. Mnangagwa's government have a credible plan other than to complain about sanctions, what they have done to our country and all that? There are countries like, let's talk about Russia, China, with sanctions from the West, the so-called West, but they're doing well for their citizens. What are we missing as Zimbabwean citizens? Have we figured out, even if those sanctions persisted, which we know they are phantom, they are an imagination to a large extent, even if they existed, what are we doing to still make our country prosperous, to still make Sadc a better region because of the contributions from our country? When Dr. Nkululeko mentioned something about the potential of our people, I was reminded of a study that was done in Zimbabwe, or in comparing Zimbabwean kids with kids from other parts of the world who are more advanced. What they noticed was that when they gave these kids computers for the first time, you know, the kids in Zimbabwe versus the kids from other parts of the world, actually, the learning ability of the kids in Zimbabwe was amazing. It was raw talent. They were able to imagine how to use these computers much better than the kids who have access to computers day and night everywhere. So the point there being, what are we doing to increase the potential for Zimbabwean citizens, for Sadc citizens? So the last thing I will talk about is an issue that all of us are seized with currently, ZIG. Okay, I would like ZIG to succeed. I'm one of those people who have been out there saying this is going to fail and you guys are screwing it up. I want the Sadc leaders who come to Zimbabwe in August to say, oh man, it's time we accept ZIG as a currency in Zambia, in Mozambique, in Botswana. We want that to happen. If Mr. Mnangagwa can create the environment for that to be possible, that will be success. And that success will not be only for him and his government, but it will be for all of us Zimbabwean citizens and for all Sadc citizens. The ease of doing business, the basic thing that Mr. Mnangagwa and his government are failing to do is to have a stable domestic currency. A stable domestic currency is how you build an economy. It's how you create jobs for your people, for your citizens. It's a very basic thing that the central government, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, they should be able to do that without political interference and be successful. That's what I want Mr. Mnangagwa to do. So, because a lot of us, a lot of our parents have lost their life savings, their pensions, they have lost it over and over, and we want this to stop. The best way to stop it is to make sure ZIG is a currency that Sadc will say, we are ready to do this. The same way we used to have the Zimbabwean dollar in the 1980s, 1990s being accepted across Sadc, across the world. Why are we failing to do something as basic as that? So anyway, that's the charge I would give to Mr. Mnangagwa. In terms of roads, you know, people have talked about these villas and roads being built, the parliament. Tapio was talking about, was it my brother Vashona talking about, you know, the new parliament, what it means for new road. Listen, we want more infrastructure development, smart infrastructure, not just building some little, you know, what we call it, a little track on Zira, in Zira Kumbaya and call that a road or a railway. We want proper roads. We want proper smart buildings which can stand things like, oh, these are El Nino phenomenon, you know, cyclone Ida and things like that. We want to be able to build infrastructure that's smart, that can do that. So I could just go on and on. The way we are able to do that is when we have a stable currency that will help us to do that. So I challenge Mr. Mnangagwa and his government to say, what do we need to do regarding ZIG? Whatever you call it ZIG, call it the bond, call it whatever. It's a name. The bottom line is we should have a functional domestic currency in our country. We want to do that. And SADC, if they accept ZIG, it's going to be easier for it to be accepted worldwide. And that's what all of us Zimbabwean citizens want, irrespective of our political affiliations. We love President Chamisa. He should be running the country. But right now, he is not the president of the country. While Mr. Mnangagwa is there, no matter how long he's going to be there, we want him to be successful, because success is for all of us. We want our hospitals to work again. We want to have clean water and things like that. So I could go on and on, but thank you, my sister Mildred, for this opportunity in Change Radio. Thank you for this opportunity. Dr. Ngu, it's been a pleasure. Let me stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anga. Thank you for those submissions. Really, really powerful. Always enjoy hearing from you. Hope you still stay on. We want to hear from you again. But before we move on, we've got a few people that have had the mic and been waiting to speak. So if I could ask Chamisa as president, then Queen Nandi, then Musena, in that order, please. If you could grab the mic, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you. Chamisa as president, are you there? You're the first one to speak. If not, Queen Nandi, would you like to take the mic?
Hello guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
A very good evening to everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. And I've listened to everybody's submission, and I have been reading and rereading the topic of this conversation, and I'm trying to understand what exactly it is that we are actually here to discuss. And I'm going to have maybe a slightly different submission to this conversation, because I think my first submission would be to say that ED is not the president of Zimbabwe. He is a self-imposed, I won't say leader, but ruler of Zimbabwe. And what I really wanted to touch on is that I feel like, without undermining the contributions of others, I feel like we are all kind of like skating around the real issue of what's really going on here, because I feel as if Sadc has shown their cowardice and let the people of Zimbabwe down in a very big way. And the reason why I say this is because Sadc had the perfect opportunity to come through for Zimbabwe during this time when Zimbabwe were supposed to take on the chairmanship of Sadc, because they have the power to make those decisions, to say Zimbabwe has a contested president, because right now in Zimbabwe, in all honesty, we do not have a president. We are under military rule because we are being ruled by force. So I think that's my first submission. And somebody spoke about the developments that are going on in Zimbabwe, because we've seen the building of the new villas, the roads are being upgraded superficially, I would say, because after a couple of years, those roads will be gone, because they're just resurfacing those roads. And then the airports upgrades. And what I wanted to say is that in a country that is struggling the way Zimbabwe is struggling, who needs airports when the people of Zimbabwe have no running water? People are starving to death, and people are dying from curable diseases. unemployment is at an all-time high of over 85%. And women are giving birth under, unsterile conditions. The hospitals have no medication. And generally, people are just living like very difficult lives in Zimbabwe. And the majority of Zimbabweans right now are surviving through the diasporans. If people don't have any relations in the diaspora, they're generally just really struggling. Even those educated people have no jobs. The ones that have jobs, they're just earning like Mienga salaries. So I feel like Sadc has really betrayed us. And when I came to this platform, I thought we were going to actually be discussing what we should be doing, in terms of, I don't know, maybe engaging Sadc, because I feel like they've really let us down. We should be having conversations around this, because Sadc, in as much as this chairmanship is rotational, they have the power to actually sit at a table and say, this chairmanship was supposed to go to Zimbabwe. But at the moment, Zimbabwe has no president, because the president in Zimbabwe is contested. But they're just going ahead like everything is normal in Zimbabwe, because what they are doing is they are accommodating each other. I think the initial speaker spoke about the fact that we should look at all the different countries that form Sadc, in the sense that they are all not democratic countries. And I understand that. But I feel like this is our opportunity to show up as Zimbabweans and show Sadc that even though they have let us down, we are still standing. We cannot just accept Emmerson Mnangagwa and say, and expecting that suddenly Emmerson Mnangagwa is going to become a good president come August. Emmerson Mnangagwa is going to become a president for the people come August, because Emmerson Mnangagwa's presidency is about his family. It's about himself. Mnangagwa is not a people's president. He's a Mnangagwa's president. It's just about his family, his dynasty, and his relatives. If you look into the government of Mnangagwa is just formed. It's formed of his relatives, his in-laws, and there's nobody else in there. So I feel like that was my submission. I just feel like as Zimbabweans, come August, we should not be expecting the ZIG to perform better. We should not be anticipating our country to grow. We should not be looking for Mnangagwa to start performing miracles all of a sudden. We should not be looking at Mnangagwa to all of a sudden not to be corrupt. We should not be looking at Mnangagwa to suddenly be worried about climate change. We should not be looking at Mnangagwa all of a sudden to look at the fact that we have a drought in our country and how we should be mitigating those factors. We should actually be looking at what we should be doing to salvage our situation, given the fact that for the first time in many years, we have an audience that we can take advantage of. Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's my submission.
Thank you very much, Queen Nandi. We would like to hear from you again further. I think you've posed a very good question, is should we just take this lying down, or should we do something as Zimbabweans? And therefore, the question is out there for everybody. What should we be doing, as Queen Nandi has said? Musena, have you still got the mic? If so, please come on. We'd like to hear from you.
Yes, I'm still here, my sister. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And hello, everyone on the space, and the host, and my dear brother, Nkululeko. It's been a long time. Last time we met, I think it was somewhere in Leeds ages ago when we were having some MDC meeting or whatever. But yeah, I think I tend to toe the line of the previous speaker, my sister Nandi. I think that's my sentiments as well, that it is, instead of me being excited and happy that Zimbabwe as a nation has been accorded some special position in Sadc as the chairperson, I'm kind of like deflated and disappointed, which is not because I hate my country or at all. I've always been so excited in the past when Simba Makweni was Secretary General of Sadc. We were so proud as Zimbabweans. And even at times when Robert Mugabe, in the early years, when he used to speak on international fora, and I would be rushing to be next to a TV set or a radio to listen and be proud that as Zimbabweans, we are playing our beat on the international arena. But in this scenario, as the previous speaker has said, this is not a legitimate president. He has stolen elections twice. Probably before that, he fronted or he was part and parcel of a military coup that came into our country. And so Zimbabweans, if I gauge by the mood and look at how I feel right now, you would tell that there is no excitement in all this. It's almost like rewarding a criminal. It's almost like rewarding a fraudster and someone who has stolen an election, a robber, and placing them in a position of authority and hope that he is going to steer our region to prosperity, to recognition, etc. I think we are being naive because if a person has got a certain behavior that we all know back home, that he can't run his own government, he can't run his own backyard, he can't run his own country, he can't run and perform free and fair elections, he doesn't give opportunity for his citizens to speak their mind without persecution, without abductions. He doesn't. He is a chief of the gold mafia. He is in charge of all things that have gone wrong in our country, and then you get that person and promote them and give them a position to be in charge of a region for a particular period of time. To me, it is a disgrace. It is quite a disappointment. It is almost like encouraging. His position there is not representing suffering Zimbabweans or suffering masses of Southern Africa. His position there, as far as we know his character, he is a representative of the same people that I've listed here, the gold mafia. He is going to be rewarding, he is going to be representing them and encouraging them and telling them that, guys, I've got the reins now. If you want to come, if you want to have access, I might have authority. I've got authority now. This is the opportunity for you to strike. For the people of Zimbabwe, the Varakashi and the ZANU, the thugs, sorry, I don't mean to be insult anyone politically, but I'm talking about those elements in the ruling party who operate by butchering, abducting, and violating opponents. They are almost like rewarded, almost they are almost encouraged to say that, well, there is a reward at the end of doing something that is bad. there is a reward after all that we did during elections with the FARs and all, and with the person that we propelled up there is in turn be recognized further, so we can continue to do what we normally do. It works, it pays. So that's the impression, that's my reaction to having our president in that position. And the problem with it again is also that instead of us managing to turn a corner, because everyone is hoping that Zimbabwe will have to turn a corner. But when ED is continuously being even recognized by Sadc and given a position like this, it means our turning point gets even further and further. It means the recovery of our nation remains a pipe dream. So all that adds to my disillusionment. And in the past, we used to know that these institutions, these organizations, the frontline states, the African unions and all, they were standing on the side of the suffering masses. They were, if we're looking at even Zimbabwe during the armed struggle, the frontline states, they were not just rushing to buy propaganda from Ian Smith and company that I'm going to do an election and create a Zimbabwe Rhodesia. They didn't buy it because they knew that he was doing it for himself and not for the suffering masses. They begged us during the liberation struggles because they knew that Zimbabwean people and Southern African people were downtrodden. We were occupied. We were oppressed. And the institutions of today, the Sadc, is failing to live up to that the reputation. I think for starters, we had our when we had our elections, the Sadc Sadc election mission. I think it was one of the first for a long time that called a spade and disqualified the elections in Zimbabwe and said they were not free and fair. But then the rest of the organization, you can tell, you can see that the rest of it is not in tune with the current. They are birds of the same feathers. They are struggling to want to line up with what their election commission or election mission said last year, that the elections were not free and fair. So there are elements in there, in that group, that continues to be just for the purpose of friendship, for their leadership, and not for the masses. They don't want to recognize and say, okay, just like what the previous speaker said, your elections were said not to be above board. And as a result, the result of it, the president that came out of it, we should skip him. We should skip this country until they sort out their election issues and the results and the pending issues. We should skip and go to the next until Zimbabwe issue has been sorted. So the message they are giving to these masses of Zimbabwe, that whose votes were stolen, is to say that we don't give a damn. It's more important to us to be friends with ED and this ruling party than to listen to your cries about stolen elections, which is a discord in our nation. Sometime before Thabo Mbeki, after Robert Mugabe lost the election, he came and pretended to want to help, but what he was actually doing was to save Mugabe's loss and usher him back to a position of authority, despite having lost an election. And this is what the same Sadc appears to be doing right now, sanitizing an electoral fraud, and recognizing an illegitimate leader and allowing him to be up there. And when this happens, the suffering masses of Zimbabwe whose votes were stolen, we feel like we have been abandoned. We have been exposed to an electoral criminal, and we don't even hope to have any better elections come 2028. Thank you. Those are my sentiments.
Thank you so much for your submissions. I think you're echoing how people are feeling, which is that they've been let down by Sadc, and it's almost a reward to, illegitimacy, and so that's the feeling, and I think that's how everybody is thinking at the moment. So thank you very much, Senna, for your thoughts. Champion Estella, you wanted to come in. I'll hand the mic over to you.
Thank you, Champion Mildred. Thank you, co-host, and blessed evening to my fellow citizens who are on this space. My sentiments are more in line with the last two speakers, that we should not be allowing this Sadc summit to endorse E.D. Mnangagwa's presidency, that if we sit still and are quiet and we allow this event to take place, that in essence solidifies his presidency to the international community and even to the average Zimbabwean. And I've been very concerned about proceedings that I have observed on social media. There have been a lot
this than I am. And I refuse that. I refuse to be less equal than an American on global issues. The only reason I'm unequal to an American is because I have a government that does not understand that the matters of international relations and international politics almost entirely depend on the country's capacity to compete on the global stage. Zidera, and let's be honest about this. Insult me if you want. I'll be honest with you. Zidera, the so-called sanctions law by the Americans on Zimbabwe, is for all intents and purposes a law that is designed by America for Americans and has total jurisdiction within America's geographic influence. American laws are not international laws, they're not United Nations laws. Ian Smith faced United Nations sanctions, which means he faced international law sanctions. If somebody in Zimbabwe is a government and wants to complain about laws that have jurisdiction within the shores of the American continent, that person presupposes and tells every Zimbabwean citizen that Zimbabweans are less equal than Americans. That Americans can tell us what to do. And if Mnangagwa believes that, I've got news for the guy. I don't believe that. If the gentleman who just spoke believes that an American citizen, by virtue of carrying an American citizenship and an American passport, is a better human being than I am, I refuse that. Because nobody is better than me. Nobody can be. Nobody has come as far as I have. Nobody can come as far as I have, because I've traveled my own journey and I'm proud of my journey. Now, because I'm proud of my journey and what it has taught me, I disagree almost entirely with the notion that when the Americans make laws about their own behavior, about what they should and should not do, I should be worried about that. So when we spend a decade, when we spend 10 years, when we spend 20 years at school talking about an American law and not talking about a Zimbabwean law, we have agreed prima facie that we're lesser human beings than the Americans are, that our laws mean nothing less. I implore this gentleman to go to the Zimbabwean parliament and today instigate a law that would slap sanctions on Joe Biden. When you do that, Mr. Mnangagwa, when you slap sanctions on Joe Biden, then you are a man of your word or a woman of your word. But when you just complain about what Joe Biden has done to you, and you do not, you know, I got beat up in school as a kid. And when I got beat up in school as a kid, my mother didn't just go to the mother and father of the child and say, well, your kid is busy beating up my kid. My mother came to me. My mother said, well, when that kid beat you up, what did you think? What did you do about it? Well, if they beat you up again tomorrow, what are you going to do about it? And you know, when I did that once, you know, I thought my mother wasn't good enough. You know, when I told her that some kid was bullying me up, and I went to my dad and I said, Dad, you know what? Those guys, those two guys, those neighbors kids were mocking me up. You know what my dad did? And I was walking with him, you know, and because he was taller than me, he saw these guys that I talked about earlier, approaching from a distance. And my dad then just said, you know what, wait here. I just want to walk up and meet somebody and I'll call you up. So my dad walked up front because my dad wanted me to be a person on earth who understands competition and success. And when he met those guys, he told them that that guy there has just said he's going to beat you up. So he sent these guys angry and seething at me to beat me up. Because what my dad didn't want from me was a crybaby. And what ZANU-PF has done through the days of Mugabe as a villain hero was to tell us that the only way to deal with the American sanctions was to be crybabies. Cry about, there is a law that governs America for Americans. It's not a law that governs Russians, that governs the Chinese. The Chinese don't recognize the DERA to the extent that they can't be punished by the Americans. And the Chinese find ways to escape American punishment. And I know, as I said earlier, that Zimbabweans have got the temerity, the intelligence, the capability, and the potential to compete on the world stage, just as Ian Smith did. You know, once upon a time, not so many years ago, Zimbabwe was a car manufacturing country when it was called Rhodesia. Once upon a time, the Zimbabwean or Rhodesian dollar, the Zimbabwean dollar that when inherited in 1980, was competing on par with the American dollar. Because this our country was able to compete on par because the people that ran that country decided that matches would be made in this country. You'd call it lion. The buses that were called Leyland in England could be remanufactured in Rhodesia and they'll be called AVM. A car that was called Datsun somewhere, you call it 120Y in this country, that you would have assembly plants in this country. That you would partner with the Israelis as apartheid as they were and create the Pumas that the rest of the world never knew, cars that would deflate a bomb and allow the Rhodesians to continue fighting. These are people that believed in themselves. And I don't support Israel, as it were. And I don't support the Rhodesians, as it were. I understand one thing. This world is competitive. And we have got to be willing to survive in order to survive. Mm-hmm. And if you're ZANU-PF, you need to stop thinking that being a crybaby about economics of the world, about politics of the world, about... I hear our friends in ZANU-PF complaining that somehow maybe the people in Botswana have an American base in their country. Hell, let them decide that. If having an American base in their country gives them an advantage over you, that is what competition is about. Mm. You get that if you can. And let's compete in the world as if we are in competition to survive. Mm. Let's not compete in the world as if America owes us some kindness. Mm. America owes its citizens some kindness. Mm. And we are owed some kindness by the ZANU-PF government. And I'm done. I'm done taking the excuse. And if you want to make that excuse that America is better than us, and because they're better than us, you want me to beg America to be your friend, I won't do that. Let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to believe and have faith in Zimbabwe and Zimbabweans' capacity to compete on par with anybody and anyone on earth without having to beg our our way to life. And I know we can do that. You don't tell me, and I will not agree with you, that I must beg the Americans in order to earn a living on earth. I will not do that. I will never beg the Americans. If you want to do that, Mr. Mnangagwa, go on and do it. All I'm asking, Mnangagwa, ZANU-PF, and your government, get out of my ingenuity. Get out of the way of my capacity. Get out of the way of our Zimbabweans. Because these Zimbabweans, the way I have known them for the past 30 years, are very, very capable. If you just do one thing, get out of the way. Thank you.
Yeah, Sister Patricia, are you there? You can take over. I think some moderators got some technical issues behind the scene. Can you take over, please? Okay, for the meantime, let me take over. Can I give the mic to Citizen Champion?
Sorry, which Citizen Champion are we talking about, Professor?
I see one.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Citizen Champion, are you there?
Sorry, which Citizen Champion are we talking about, Professor?
Thank you so much for I see one Citizen Champion with red beret. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Thank you so much for the good space. I just need to respond to the doctor who was speaking right now. You know, he was talking about crybabies. I didn't understand what he was saying, but I think at this point in juncture now, 4 months before the Sadc summit, I think the crybabies are us who are facing the children of Zambia. I think as opposition, when Nevers Mumba presented this report to say that the elections did not meet the democratic standard, we should all have known that Zimbabwe now is now a dictatorship. So how do we deal with a dictatorship that pretends to be democratic when you know that it's a dictatorship? Without advocacy, without protest, without civil society, because we don't know have civil society now. It's very sad that the civil society was swallowed by the coup in 2017. And you all know we were bought by this regime. Unless we go back to revitalize the civil society, and to make sure that we have a civil society that is working for the citizen independently, we're not going nowhere. I know President Chamisa can say, no, we are sorting out the issues. But at that level, it can only be lost in 1 minute or 2 minutes or 1 day. So we really need, as grassroots people, to make sure that we mobilize people even to go to go and protest now in Botswana. If you are in America, the same thing. If you are in London, the same thing. Because it's us, the citizens, who must stand that and show them that no, this is not the right way. I don't believe when you are fighting tyranny, you depend on men in suit. The elite serve the elite. That's it. The oppressed must fight the elite. There is no other way. As it says now, we don't have any legal revenue to challenge Emerson Mnangagwa. Besides pushing this Sadc. But how do we push Sadc to know that no, we have legitimate consent? We have to be sure, we have to be sitting back and say, no, these people, they've got legitimate consent. So what must we do? That's what we must do. That's what we must do. The only way for Sadc to take a stronger action against the Mnangagwa government is for us as citizens who believe that we are being oppressed, who believe that our freedoms are being taken away, who believe that our human rights are being violated every day. The onus is upon us. Just as Bob Marley said, we must be our own liberators. We mustn't wait for Nevers Mumba. We mustn't wait for Ichilema or wait for Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa is now focused on on his election now. Coming doesn't to you. That's why they defeat us. I need to tell you. We must mobilize. That's politics. If we say we are educated, right? Those people, they are too. But do we have the muscle? The political muscles to push back. That is what we need in Zimbabwe. For the last 22 years, we have been speaking about diplomacy. How do you speak diplomacy with a tyrannical government? How do you see diplomacy with a government that oppresses you every day? You cannot talk of democracy in a country whereby you are jailed for 595 days without trial. Then you think Sadc will be able to fix that thing? No. Comrades, I think we must sit down and reflect for the last 22 years and say, what must we do? Logistically, what resources must we put so that we win this struggle? We cannot have a struggle of saying we rely on one man's popularity. What about if he got sick tomorrow? What about if he dies tomorrow? How are we going to take this struggle forward? Comrades, I think now, facing this Sadc summit is a time to reflect. It's not a time to cry. The ZANU-PF is winning, and it has won using the death tactics. It's a game. And I want to tell you the truth, this game doesn't have a referee. Sadc is playing for ZANU-PF. We know that Sadc is playing for ZANU-PF. So what do we do here at this stage? The only way to defeat them is to do tackles. If you tackle 3, they're out. How many are we left with? So that the game is even. This is politics. I hear some of the young leaders, they talk of a revolution. They are revolutionary. I haven't seen any revolutionary tactic in them. I haven't seen any revolutionary action to make sure that the tide is turned against us. And people are edgy as we speak, and ZANU-PF will continue to do. We cannot continue to say ZANU-PF did that. No. You mustn't look at what the opponent is doing. What you must do as a competitor is to sharpen your own strategies.
Sharpen your own tactics. Go back to training. Go back to the drawing board. And see, how can I defeat that champion? How can I defeat that monster? How can I defeat that devil? And some of us are even going to Zambia to look for solutions. I think we have to sit down. How do you sit down the devil? And some of them know, I think we must do rational disputation. I hear most of the people who are saying, how do you rationalize with the people who have been utilizing you for more than 40 years? If Moses in the Bible could have do a rational disputation with the Pharaoh, do you think they would have gone to Canaan? There is no way. There is no way. Comrades, we must eat of faith. You know, in this struggle, we are very fortunate enough that we have doctors, we have people with PhD, we have managers, we have people in HR, right? How do you manage this struggle so that we defeat the enemy? That is what we must do. We mustn't be crybabies and say Zambia has been doing it for 40 years now. Has been doing the same thing, the same strategy, the same tactic. Yes. Do you know that Zambia is even more is using the Smith regime tactics more than Smith himself? I even hear some people they glorify this constitution. No, in Zimbabwe we are Christian democrats. Guys, Christian democrats what?
And Dr. Nkululeko wants to retire. He has been with us for the past 2 hours and some change. So we also want to give him a chance to give his closing remarks. So, but before we get there, let's give everyone 1 minute who is on the speaker's platform. You have something burning that you want to share with everyone here. Let's start with Comrade. 1 minute, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm listening to the people as they speak and laughing. I laugh because I see a trend that we have within the opposition politics. we're being taken for a ride by these guys. And that's my honest opinion. One, because they seem not to understand what ZANU-PF is. And they've misdiagnosed the solution. Maybe deliberately so. I don't know what their intentions are. First, ZANU-PF is a competitive authoritarian regime which allows for competition within the electoral field, but will never allow for itself to lose those elections. So it might have 100 political parties fighting and competing, giving the semblance or appearance of a democracy. That's why some people call Zimbabwe a competitive democracy. And they'll say Zimbabwe is a constitutional democracy because of the opposition, which is falling into that trap. We went to elections with hope in 1999. MDC was formed in 1999, went to elections in 2000 with hope. And there was a huge improvement, 0 to 59 MPs, if I'm not mistaken. And that gave us hope. But we are falling into the trap that was set by ZANU-PF because they needed an opposition to authenticate them in the eyes of the world. We then went to elections in 2005 and eventually the presidential elections 2008. We know what happened then. We cried in 2000, we cried in 2005, we cried in 2008. We are crying today about disputed elections. What kind of stupid people are we that continue to do the same thing over and over and over and over again without any change? We cried about delimitation. We've been crying since 1980 about delimitation. 1980, before Zadc was in place, when we had the Electoral Commission in charge of the elections. We are crying today. We disputed elections in 1980 and with better reason than today. We are still doing so today. We know that the electoral system cannot remove ZANU-PF from power. All of us here know that.
Can you round up speaking solutions and also direct?
Thank you. My brother, I'm only speaking. This is the first time I've spoken, so please allow me.
It's your first time? Okay.
Yes.
I thought you're one of you.
No. It's my first time. And let me go to the solution.
Give you 2 more minutes, and then we go to the next speaker, please.
Thank you. Let me go to the solution. We cannot sit here and shout on Twitter to tell Mnangagwa to go. He will not go. That's obvious. So that is political rhetoric which we don't need, because we are putting the lives of Zimbabweans on the line in every election. 2008 people were killed. 99 people were killed. 2013 people were killed. Yeah, people's hands and feet, short-sleeved, long-sleeved, were cut for the sake of the opposition. While the opposition is basically not doing anything for the freedom of Zimbabweans. Going to an election is not providing freedom for Zimbabweans. It's wanting a piece of the cake. We have research papers that have proven the only way to remove an authoritative, competitive authoritarian regime is through protest movement. Some countries have tried a war, it has not worked. The only time a competitive authoritarian regime has been removed from power, we have Ukraine as an example, protest. We have the Arab movement as an example, protest. None of those regimes were removed via elections. So people like Nkululeko, stop fooling people and telling them that Mnangagwa has to go today. Do you think Mnangagwa is going to go because you shouted on Twitter? You are the ones that are telling people not to protest. So you are the ones that are standing between the people people and freedom. When you speak about trenches and freedom and this, you are lying. You are simply appeasing your donors, whatever. I don't know why you as opposition are doing that, because people are dying for the sake of the opposition. Why don't we go for actual freedom by protesting, using a system that has been scientifically proven to produce results and remove an authoritarian regime? Do you think elections and sloganeering on Twitter is going to remove Mnangagwa? You've been opposition for how many years? You people as officials in opposition. And people have been killed. None of you have been killed. While us, we are being killed every day on the streets. No opposition political figure has been killed in the last 10 years. While us, the useless people that you are using as cannon fodder, are dying daily so that you can continue whatever is donor funds, whatever you are eating. While people are dying, let's provide a solution that is going to free people. The removal of ZANU-PF is not going to be done on Twitter.
Hi, this is Change Radio. I'm sorry, I've had to mute the speaker because some of the things that he said are not factually correct.
What is not factually correct, my sister? Please tell me.
When you talk about the donors, which donors are you talking about?
I said maybe. I don't understand. Maybe.
Yeah, but you're shouting. No, can you stop shouting, please?
No, that's how I talk.
Yeah, no. Well, okay.
The reality is, my sister, there are proven methods of removing an authoritarian regime. That's not a lie.
Yes, but
that's a scientific study. That's not a lie.
Okay, if you continue to argue when you're going off topic, I will remove you from the space.
Not going off topic, my sister. Freedom is of paramount. Not this freedom that is being offered by these opposition political parties. Aren't your people dying yourselves? Is that not true? You can remove me if you want. I don't care. But the people must be told the truth. Otherwise, you're wasting people's lives. What are people dying for? You're telling me I'm lying because of...
You're becoming argumentative and you're disrespecting the space.
And you don't say people are dying. Do you think I have to respect you when people are dying for the sake of...
Okay, co-hosts, who was next to speak? Because I just felt that that speaker, we had given them time, but I felt that they were out of line.
Okay, so thank you so much. Can you people hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
No, thank you so much. So it's unfortunate that people tend to turn this, the radio station as a political party. Unfortunately, the sentiments that are being brought here are supposed to go to the political party, not to the Change Radio. This is a radio, like any other online radio. Please, I know the situation or the circumstances might be emotional, but please, let's be aware of the platform where we are. This is Change Radio, and the platform is a radio online that we want people to air their views, but do not conclude or mistaken it with a political party. I think the last person that never spoke, speak the truth. Is it?
Champion, let me just say a few words here. You're right. This is a radio station, and of course, we allow people to express themselves. That's what we are fighting for, that democracy. But the sentiments that have been expressed are the same sentiments that we have heard, where people who say because of freedom of speech, we say there is no opposition in Zimbabwe. We've heard those sentiments, and it pains me. It breaks my heart because we have had people that have died in this struggle trying to fight alongside opposition comrades. and you hear someone saying there's no opposition in Zimbabwe. We have leaders that have lost their lives, including our founder, the grandfather of democracy in Zimbabwe, who created the very space that we are occupying today, for which if we didn't have that space, we would not even be speaking, would not even be doing what we are doing. Dr. Richard Morgan Tsvangirai, we know he was poisoned. He's not the only one. Even his wife was murdered by this regime. We have people that are widows now today. Their husbands were taken away in this struggle, led by the very same opposition that is deemed weak, that is said that people who go on top of mountains and everywhere and write on Twitter that we do not have an opposition in Zimbabwe. Tondera Indira was one of our leaders, a resolute leader who fought. And we have Mindira today. She doesn't have anything. His children are not going to school. I can keep on going. I can talk about many people that have been part of this struggle, some that have been maimed, some that are not dead, some that are here that have been physically and emotionally maimed in this struggle, that we are saying we don't have a struggle in Zimbabwe. The space that we are occupying today was fought for. The space that we have today, that we must not let go, that we must not give up on. It was fought for by people in this country, by people, some who have fled, that are in other countries. There are people that have lost everything in this struggle. We have people that have been in this struggle since they were children, and they are still fighting. We're not saying there are no bad apples. There are bad apples everywhere. There are bad apples in ZANU-PF. There are bad apples in the opposition. There are bad apples even in your family. But those bad apples cannot be used as a barometer to measure what people have done in this struggle, have sacrificed in this struggle. We have people that have lost children. We have people that have lost mothers. We have people that are orphans as we are speaking today. So let's not minimize the contributions that the people have made. Let's not realize what all of us here, together with all the people that are here, we have sacrificed. I know what happens even if we have to fast forward and we go back to 2023. 2020, everyone who is here, the citizens in the diaspora, you sacrificed. You used your last cent. Some people were going and taking up shifts so that they could do something for the struggle. Those are sacrifices that people are making because they believe that there is going to be freedom. And I'm telling you, freedom is going to come. That's the nature of the struggle. It doesn't happen tomorrow. It's not a walk in the park. President Chamisa always says that. It's not a walk in the park. It's called a struggle because it is a struggle. We just don't have to give up. So let's not come here and disillusion each other. We are already disillusioned, but we cannot again disillusion ourselves. So I become heated up because I've lost relatives who were genuine in this struggle. Some were in the leadership of our opposition. Champion,
with your permission, comrades, my heart bleeds because when I listen to the previous speaker who was muted, and when I listen to you, and I want to listen to the person that muted them, I find, unfortunately, I do find a lot of agreement, Chief Sosha, between yourself and himself. What we're facing is the classic the situation of a people that are oppressed and are fighting various struggles within the same struggle. And Professor Masipula put this best, that the gentleman that feels like he was anathemic to the ideas of the opposition movement is in fact, in my view, fighting a struggle within a struggle. You see, there is a struggle within the struggle, and part of it is a struggle to understand the things we
Has Dr. Nkululeko dropped, or is it me?
I think he dropped, but he's still there. Maybe that's his network.
Okay.
You can give the rest of the speakers 1 minute, and we round up.
Yes, please. So there's Queen. So if we can start with Queen, speak through, and then we go to Citizen.